3, 2, 1.
Hey, sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to the BBallBreakdown live show post the Raptors Sixers Game 3. As always, I'm joined by Jared Weiss at Jared Weiss NBA. I think you're there, Jared. Are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me fine?
We can hear you counting, we can hear you talking, we can hear you doing everything.
Those are the 3 things I can do, so that's good.
All right. Now let's find out if we can do it all at the same time. And of course, I need to hit record on the recordings because you did not remind me to do that. But no problem. I'll get it from the.
Hey, don't forget to record, by the way.
Good idea. All right, so we're recording. We're live. It looks like we got YouTube going. We've got Periscope going. We got people talking to me. Seagull 4576 whatever is saying "Sup, Coach," and I'm saying "What's up?" And again, I can't comment. I can't coach. The browser experience on Periscope is suboptimal. Now let's see what we got here going in the YouTube chat is going. Whoa, it's already going big time. All right, so Jared, we got to talk about the game. Game 3, I kind of hate watched it. Okay, I will admit that I kind of felt like the Raptors kind of had control of the series. They won Game 1 in convincing fashion. They didn't really play well, and they got it close in Game 2, and it kind of felt like there was a couple plays here or there. But what happened in Game 3, man?
I think Joel Embiid's good again. That helps.
Yeah, Kawhi Leonard's pretty good too.
Kawhi Leonard's pretty good. I mean, Kauai I think it was the early third quarter, it seemed like he was going to shoot them back into it. Mm-hmm. And then Butler and Embiid just kind of ran away there. I mean, those guys were just attacking so well. And Jimmy Butler's defense was really put a stamp on this game in the fourth quarter.
You know what's interesting, and we'll get into what I hate, why I always hate watching the game. But what I thought was interesting was I did a video where I analyzed how the starters lined up with the starters the way Brett Brown did it. Because remember, he did a kind of a radical change where they had Embiid guarding Siakam and Gasol guarding Harris. Or no, I'm sorry, I'm going the other way around. Harris guarding Gasol. Siakam, whatever it was, the whole deal. Who was guarding? We know that Simmons is guarding Kauai. Anyway, they went away from that in Game 3. They started out in a very conventional way, which I thought was really interesting because in my video, I kind of showed, at least in those 15 minutes when those 5 were matched up against each other, the Raptors scored really well. So it didn't really work, and people were arguing with me on Twitter about it, and I was like, well, I mean, okay, maybe other times when the other 5s got mixed up a little bit, then we saw some success with the Sixers matching up with Embiid on Siakam and whatnot, but it didn't work when they were the starters out there. So strangely enough, Brett Brown went away from that, and I wonder if they saw the same thing that I did.
Well, it seemed like the Philly defense was trying to overload sometimes onto the strong side because it seemed like we saw a few times passes from like one elbow all the way into the far corner to find an open shooter. So I think Toronto, the way that they were trying to work this game plan was to try to attract more Philly defenders over and just probably just try to get 2 on Kauai on ball. And that seemed to be working, I guess, a little bit there. But regardless of what the matchup is, I thought this was more about Philly just imposing their will physically on both ends of the floor rather than just like matchups being the issue.
Yeah, I think that was part of it. I do think that at least in the beginning, it felt like the Raptors were getting good shots they couldn't hit. So Danny Green is a buzzkill, and he's been a buzzkill for a while now. I mean, I think the height of the 2014 finals is worn off. And I just don't. I like to look at his numbers since then, but I feel like in the playoffs it's been suboptimal. He's not like this knockdown, lights out shooter that we're used to seeing in other times, and what his reputation is for. Certainly not like in this series. I mean, he's getting open shots. He just doesn't not hit them, and it's frustrating. I imagine if I was a Raptors fan, you got to look at this going, what the heck? You have one job. He hit a 3 in the beginning. Maybe he hit a couple in the very beginning. And that seemed like, and I tweeted that out saying, okay, maybe this is going to be something going on, but then no. So what do you think it was? That the Raptors offense was dismantled and looked terrible, I thought, for most of the game. So what do you think? Who was the main culprit? Is it Embiid?
Yeah, I think Embiid. Well, if you're talking about defensively, it's Butler up on the point of attack and then Embiid underneath. But I mean, Embiid was just all over the place tonight. He looked like someone who had been hurt for weeks that finally felt healthy and was excited to play with like a working body again for the first time in a while. Mm-hmm. I mean, Kauai had his 33 on 13 for 22 shooting. You got what you wanted out of him. I think this was another disastrous Kyle Lowry game. I think that's a pretty clear theme that I'm not sure if there's ever been a thing with the Raptors before. Has Kyle Lowry ever had a bad playoff game?
Okay, can we get to my hate watching now? Because that was what I was watching. The guy made. he made like one good play all game long, and it was like he went up for a 3 and then hit Siakam for a quick pass for a dunk, and I was like, okay, but like he was terrible on defense. He was worse on offense. The whole thing he did with Simmons under the basket. So if we didn't see the game, or we'll give you an interpretation. He's boxing him out, and he loses his balance, whatever happens. So he ends up like bridging him and like taking him out. But at least he tried to do a basketball move in the boxing out category. And he's small. Simmons is big. So as Simmons is coming down, on the ground, he like sits on his head. You saw that, right? Did you agree with that? That's what he did?
Yeah, that's what he did.
Very provocative. Like, I'm going to put my balls in your head. And then, Simmons gave him a shot to that area with his forearm and knocked him down. So, I don't even know what they're going to do. Do you think that Simmons is going to get in trouble for that?
No, I don't know. I guess he has to, right? It's going to come up. They're going to watch the film, and they're going to, they're going to have to, I guess, at some point. It wasn't as obvious as when like Draymond punched LeBron, but it's they're going to find that it's going to be a talking point on Twitter, and they're going to have to address it. So I'd say yes.
Okay. So and Simmons had some similar weird trouble. He's so awkward with that right hand, even though he goes to the right hand all the time. And I feel like, let's see, what were his numbers? Simmons ended up being 5 for 13, and for a guy that shoots inside of 7 feet, that's not great. And he had 7 assists, but he had force. He did play defense, and he was active, so that was really good for them. But I don't know if it mattered much. Okay, I think what we have to dissect here is, was it the Sixers defense, or is it just the Raptors offense taking a crap on the court? There was a huge stretch where they didn't run offense. Literally, I couldn't recognize anything they ran. I suppose you just say they ran high pick and roll the whole time with not even a sense of like spacing. It's weird.
Yeah, they were running, like there was some high pick and roll with Ibaka, and the only time they had success attacking was when Monroe was in there. And they took advantage of Monroe, but otherwise, Danny Green did have a couple first half threes, but really after the first quarter they died. But it was the Sixers defense was just so good. They were communicating well. They were managing drives to the rim very nicely. They were funneling into Embiid. Mm-hmm. And I said this before, but like Jimmy Butler, why you have a guy like that is that when the chips are down in the series, he is going to go absolutely insane, and maybe he's going to make some bad plays, but he's going to be incredibly intense on defense, and he's going to be able to force turnovers. And then Toronto's transition defense was garbage in this game, and Philly was able to run down their throats. And Simmons, while he did struggle in the half court per usual tonight, he was able to absolutely run through Toronto's transition defense multiple times.
Yeah, it was weird. And so let's get back to Lowry then, because he's your starting point guard. They had a fantastic offense after they picked up Gasol. And it's weird. I'm trying to actually walk myself through how I got myself so on the Raptors side, thinking that, okay, they have control of this game. I'm telling you right now, like, they're not going to win another game the way this looks, right? Like, they're going to, they can easily lose again in Philly because Philly is now home and comfortable, and Embiid is clearly playing like Embiid. I know Butler also played well, but it's almost like they don't need much more than that. Whereas, I was actually surprised about this. Let me ask you this. So Siakam actually put up some decent numbers. And I was surprised when I checked like midway through the fourth. I was like, oh, he's got 20 points. He ended up with 7 for 15 from the field for 20 points. Those are pretty quiet 20 points, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. He it wasn't his usual thing. I think it's because he only had 3 rebounds tonight, right? I think you're expecting to be more offensive rebounds, more kind of like running down their throats in transition, stuff like that. But it felt like they were playing on their heels for the most part. And there was this one possession, I think it was early second quarter, and I think Butler had the ball, and Toronto was set in their defense, and Butler was kind of behind the whole play. And Butler just charged really hard at Serge Ibaka, who was just in the middle of the defense, and blew him by to get the layup, and nobody else rotated down. So this just kind of seemed like it was one of those nights where like Philly was connected across the board, and Toronto was playing very discombobulated. And a lot of Toronto's buckets seemed to be an isolation play. It was guys taking unwanted spot ups because the play wasn't happening, or just Kauai or Siakam getting some ISO stuff. And then, Gasol just did not have it tonight. And we saw like the that incredible windmill dunk. I don't know how we've gotten so far into the show without talking about that, but that windmill that Embiid had, while that was ridiculous, it came off of another one of his patently slow up fakes. And shout out, I think it was Yaron Weitzman at Bleacher Report today had like a feature about the infamously slow pump fake that he does. But Gasol is just running out on Embiid, and then Embiid is blowing him by and finishing at the rim like that. And that's because, Embiid shot 3 for 4 from deep tonight. Like, there was a legit, and though actually the only one that he missed was at the end there where he almost airballed it, but he was at that point 3 for 3 from deep. So when he's really stretching the floor, that's where Toronto gets picked apart. It's easy for Philly to finish at the rim, and then Toronto isn't really, kind of like attacking on the run. With Philly, like they're still attacking at Philly's full 5-man transition defense. So there's just there wasn't enough of those easy buckets that they were getting the last 2 games.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And I think that even still, if he's hitting those threes, I don't blame Gasol. At that point, it felt like you have to run out there because they are hitting everything. We got to try and stop them. But yeah, that slow pump fake it's because he shows the ball up over his head and then comes all the way back down and goes. But it was an amazing windmill. He doesn't get that high off the ground. I guess he's just already tall and his arms are really long, so it really helps him to do that. It was a little shocking. I do want to point out that Kawhi Leonard had an off-foot lefty dunk that was incredible. And it was funny because Mark Jackson was talking about it, and I tweeted this out. I don't even think he understood what he did. He just sort of said, that was amazing. But it was like, yeah, it was amazing specifically because he went off the left foot and then dunked it the left hand in traffic, quick dunk. So we saw a lot of that. And that's, again, more part of that Kawhi was isoing a lot to get those shots. They just struggled to get any semblance of a 5-man offense going. And I suppose if they can fix that, because in game 1 when they had that going, they were getting shots, they were moving the ball around, it worked really well. But at this point, I feel so down on what I saw that I just don't see the Raptors even having a chance. And again, remember, I know Kauai is on the team and Danny Green's on the team this year, and it's different. But this is definitely the kind of loss where they would have. This starts to careen downhill in a hurry, like when they played against LeBron. That's what it reminds me of. Like VZ once again even says on YouTube, does Lowry just forget how to play basketball every time the playoffs come around? To shake my head. Kind of. Well, you know what it is. Listen, I'm taller than Lowry. I've stood next to him. I'm taller than him, so it's already amazing that he can even finish in the lane. You know what I mean? I don't know how any of those guys that size can do that. He's, can we get into the fact that he's out of shape, in shape, or what? Is that just sort of not a thing anymore?
Well, the whole thing with him has always been that he kind of shows up out of shape and then tries to work his way into shape, and I guess that. I mean, right now he doesn't look that out of shape. He just looks like he doesn't know how to move out there, and he seems like he's got the yips on his shot. He does not seem very confident in his shot. And by the way, I just saw the replay of Simmons hitting him in the balls. I definitely think Simmons is going to get probably he might get suspended for the next game for that. Actually,
yeah.
It's
and by the way,
pretty straightforward hit to the balls.
And remember, so that's the other thing is the refereeing was really strange in the beginning against the Raptors. I thought in a way that I was like, well, okay, I guess they're on the road and whatever. So that was weird. And then Scott Foster had the all-time worst call I think I've ever seen him make, where they did Simmons did a handoff to Redick, perhaps. Van Vliet was on him, and Van Vliet smacks into him. And they called a foul. Everyone started walking back down the other side, thinking it was on Simmons because he had lowered his shoulder or whatever. He not only does he call it on Van Vliet, but he signals what he thought Van Vliet did, which is throw an elbow in him. And it was that was not even close to what happened. Van Vliet just ran into him and got clocked. So I couldn't understand, what they're doing. But the point I'm bringing this up is that it would not surprise me that, it's a suspension because obviously they want these series to go longer. And if Simmons sits, there's a really good chance the Raptors can go 2-2, and then at least we get a 6-game series. And I'm telling you, that's got to be a consideration.
Except Siakam might get suspended for his kick that he had too, that he didn't get ejected for. So maybe.
Okay. Let's talk about that. So Siakam, he went to the hole hard. Well, what happened before that? They got into it before that, right?
I'm gonna have to bring this up because you go ahead because I gotta bring up the video first.
Okay, because now I'm forgetting what was the incident right before that. Anyway, something happened and I'm forgetting now. What did he do? Anyway, all right, I'll describe what that was when you called it. Bill, tell me.
Yeah.
So,
by the way, there's some commentators saying that we're biased towards the Raptors. I want the Sixers to win this series. I think the Sixers are much more enjoyable. So.
No, people have been arguing that I've been hating on the Sixers all season long, and that actually might even be true. I mean, it's just so frustrating to watch what they do with Ben Simmons on offense, only because I know what he can do. That it just sort of turned me off on the Sixers. So I will admit that And here's the other thing is, they showed the graphic. The starters on Philly have played like 16 games together all year long, including the playoffs. So for me, I'm watching these games and I'm trying to evaluate, and I haven't been able to see what what that is. And so now that we're seeing it, at least okay, I get it.
Yeah. By the way, so Siakam went up again.
Okay.
He drove on Embiid and Embiid stuffed him. And then when Embiid tried to walk past him to get to the loose ball, Siakam just stuck out his leg and tripped him.
But
so I don't think he's going to get suspended for it. He got a flagrant 1 for it. It could have been a flagrant 2, but it wasn't like that dangerous of a play. It was just like a pretty blatant, inappropriate play. So I feel like flagrant 1 probably fits the bill, right?
Yeah, because all I remember is I tweeted that play out. So he goes to the hole hard, Siakam does. And people want to argue he got fouled. There was a little contact. And so he was really, really frustrated by that. And as he lands on the ground, he sticks his leg out, very provocatively and trips, Embiid, who went flying.
It was clearly an intentional trip.
Right. And mind you, they're from the same country. They're I'm sure, really good friends. They ended up, hugging it out or whatever he did, pounding it out. So that's not a thing, but nonetheless, that's a provocative play. That could very well be. I can guarantee you this: they're going to discuss it, right? They might not suspend him, but that will come up, and that will be a discussion when Kiki is it Kiki Vanaway still doing that? Is that right? When they go through it, they're going to talk about it now. But I think you and I both feel like the Simmons thing, they're not going to have much discussion. They're pretty much going to say, yeah, he's going to be suspended.
I don't know. It was the Simmons thing was like subtle enough. It was a sack tap instead of a smash. I could see him not getting suspended, but I feel like especially because it wasn't punished in the game, if I'm remembering correctly, right? They didn't hit him with a flagrant there. So
right. But they called him a foul, but they didn't call it flagrant, right?
Yeah, I think so. So they might it could be like a $35,000 or a $50,000 fine instead of a suspension, considering the gravity of a suspension in the final or in the playoffs. But I would say most of the time, if they're able to see that it was a hit to the balls on purpose in retaliation, I feel like they would usually do a 1-game suspension for that.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll have to wait and see. I'm sure it'll come out at some
also
point tomorrow.
At this point of the series, they know the PR firestorm for that would be a disaster. Of everybody would say they're trying to rig the series to swing it back in Toronto's favor, which I'm not really. I'm pretty sure they'd rather have. I'm pretty sure the NBA would prefer Philly to advance than Toronto, right? Because as much as we love Toronto, I think from a business perspective, Philly's success is more valuable, and Embiid's success is probably he's the most marketable star in the series. So I think they would prefer him to succeed. Not to mention it could help force Kauai to the Clippers, which would be incredibly great for the NBA. So I don't think the NBA's. We all know that the NBA is rigged, obviously, but it's not. But if the NBA were rigged, they would probably try to help the Sixers win as much as possible.
Interesting. Yeah, I hear you. I mean, that all makes sense from a number of levels. So don't forget to ask questions in the YouTube chat or the Periscope chat. Hey, if you're on Periscope, why don't you hit that share button? That's the way they like to play the game. Everyone hit the share button at the same time.
Hello.
Let all your friends know that you're watching us, and they'll join in the conversation as well. It's a pretty big group here right now. By the way, it'd be nice to get the Periscope people as much as the YouTube. We got a lot of people here on the YouTube side. So I'm imploring you guys to ask questions, and then wow, I just think I got $5 from somebody from Lovely Day. Is that right? Is there an overarching reason for the Raptors play in the regular season versus the playoffs? Well, hey, I didn't know I can collect money on YouTube like that. That's amazing, and it comes right up. So let's give that guy an extra little love. Lovely Day. So, is there an overarching reason for the Raptors? I'll give you $250. Charge me. Send over to PayPal. Is there an overarching reason for the Raptors playing the regular season versus the playoffs? Okay, great question from Lovely Day, because again, I think part of it is Lowry. Lowry isn't an elite athlete. He's not like necessarily even an elite talent. So all of his hard work and all of his, all that extra energy he uses probably tends to work a little bit better in the regular season. And perhaps when the heightened pressure starts coming in and all those things happen, like he just doesn't really deal with it that well. It seems like, right? Like he hasn't ever really performed in a playoff series, has he?
In Toronto, at least? Not consistently throughout an entire series.
Yeah. So it's like he's never really been able to do that. And again, he's already behind the 8 ball physically, right? As far as speed, quickness, length, all those things. You add some extra pressure in there and some better players all the way around because these are playoff teams. And that's going to indicate something different in the playoffs. Some guys can do it. Some guys have, Steve Nash, was able to raise his game at times too. He doesn't. I don't think he have it. So, by the way, if I'm Toronto, they blew it. They should have shopped Lowry, this year. I feel like this is, if he craps the bed again the rest of the series and doesn't show anything, he doesn't really have any value. But here's the question: what's his story right now, contract wise? And age? 33.
He's. You're supposed to. This is how you're supposed to podcast. You look it up while you're talking.
Yeah, I don't know. Listen, I have ideas. They come to me before.
Okay, well, he did turn 33. You know what? I'm going to deflect from this by saying that somebody just offered $250 to get you to show your feet, which I didn't know you were. I didn't know this was turning into a cam girl kind of situation.
Oh, I'll show my feet for $250. But here's the problem. Jigglypuff was just telling me, and shout out to Jigglypuff for again being there to moderate. He's always there. It's amazing.
1 year at 33 million.
Somebody else threw some money in the hat, and I for some reason it didn't pop up like the other one. And he was telling me that it says, oh, here we go. Wait, there's another one. He goes, what about Marc Gasol? He's just as probably accountable for the loss. So the problem is I don't know who said that. And I want to give you whoever was Gigolo. Let me know who that was. Got Marc Gasol. All of a sudden he's not an Embiid killer, right? He's not a he just looks slow and out of it. And offensively, he used to be able to score, and he just, oh, I know what it was. So they went with Harris on him in the second half. So I don't know if I finished that whole conversation. I'm sorry, we're all over the place. But they went back and to begin the second half with that weird alignment that they had in game 2. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
And so they instantly went down to Gasol in the low post, and guess what? They didn't double team him with Harris guarding him, and I thought that was fascinating. And he didn't really score. So I think Brett Brown might have figured something else out there too, where they can actually get away with that because they're not going to double or help off, and then make Marc Gasol prove it. And that might change in game 4, but for game 3, Marc Gasol, it definitely was slow. He wasn't great on defensively either, protecting the basket. Yeah, it's a problem. So I kind of missed, though. What did we end up saying about Kyle Lowry? He's 33, right? 32, 33?
33. He's making his age in money, or in millions, I should say. Also, shout out 9 Flyer with 2 R's. Not 1 R, but 2 R's for that question before.
Okay. All right, good. So he doesn't have any value. They can't trade him. They're stuck with him. It's going to be a problem. They need to upgrade that position. If they want to go farther in the second round in the playoffs, absolutely need to upgrade it. And they blew it because they probably could have figured out a way to trade him at some point. They didn't. So that's the problem that Masai Ujiri is now in. Digital Print House, get a little bit, a couple bucks for my absolute favorite channel. Here we come, Sixers. All right. Thank you for that. That was awesome. Here, let's go. I see a coach over here. Let's see. I see a question over here. Z Rawls asks, "Hey, coach, does the question need to be asked again? Is it Nick Nurse or the team?" It's interesting.
I don't know. I mean, Nick Nurse has been pretty damn good all year, and now, I think a big part of it right now is that Gasol defensively isn't matching up well against Embiid, or just at least in this game. That could obviously change. Lowry's just not playing well offensively right now. He's one of your most important. He's I guess you could say, your third best player. This is also Siakam's first really vital playoff run in his massively expanded role. So. There's definitely some change going on here. It's not like, there's variables to explain this, but I think the big thing is that they're getting stuck in a lot of situations where it's just Kauai going ISO for offense. And to credit Brett Brown and Philly, and I feel like we've criticized Brett Brown's offensive scheme a lot, But Philly seems to at least be, they have so much talent. They're able to run different plays to try to go to these guys. They at least can go ISO to all of these guys pretty much. Or with Redick, they can run them off screens as if it's pretty much ISO. So Philly at least has options offensively a lot of the time, where Toronto, they only have 2 ISO guys right now, and then everyone else is kind of watching.
Well, it's also hilarious because we would say that Philly only has a couple options either, right? When they don't look good, that's the same criticism, right? Ben Simmons can't shoot from outside of 2 feet, and he gets hanging out by the dunker spot. Embiid sometimes just starts popping out to the 3-point line too much, not posting up. Redick is their only outside threat, so it's weird, right? All of a sudden now they had to play Korkmaz and desperate for any minutes from him. So it's hard to get a handle on this game, and then also on the series. Honestly, it's just that schizophrenic to me in a way, especially with what Toronto's doing. Now, their bench had always been a really big plus for them. Let's throw Fred VanVleet under the bus. He's not playing well at all. He doesn't look the same. I don't know if he's injured. I don't know what his deal is because he's not making even the same good decisions he normally would make. Serge Ibaka was sleeping. I don't know what his deal was, but he could see he just wasn't focused, and he was making just terrible plays. Like, he was just out of it. I don't know what the deal was with him, and I don't know. He might just sort of be at the end of his run as well, sadly. So, it's just it was a whole downfall. And here's the thing. Even after all that, it kind of felt like they were going to steal the game for a while there, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, Kauai was shooting them back into it, basically. But, just to go back to Fred was 0 for 7 from the field tonight, 0 for 5 from deep. He's an undersized guard. So, but what makes him so good is that he's incredibly savvy and usually is shooting really well, and he just isn't shooting really well right now. And so there's not really anywhere for him to be productive. So when we were talking about what could you do to try to replace Kyle Lowry, obviously the ideal scenario would be that, Danny Green's a free agent, so you might have to let him walk, is that you slide Fred into the starting lineup and then you focus on getting another really good wing player. But I mean, I don't know if they can expect to win with Fred as their point guard in the playoffs, just because the physicality of the playoffs ratchets up so much. It seems to take him out of his game a lot.
Right. And it's another really small point guard. They don't, because I was going to say, like, gosh, can they bench Lowry? Honestly, that's what I was at by the middle of this game. I'm like, they got to bench him and do something else. But again, it's a good point. There really isn't much of a choice unless you want to run Kauai out there at the point, and throw I don't know, McCaw or I don't, you know what I mean? It goes something crazy. Greg Smith is always out there to correct me or make sure I'm on my toes, and he said he wouldn't say Redick is their only shooting threat. Harris is one of the best 3-point shooters in the NBA. Harris is definitely one of those two for sure. We'll give him props for that.
Jimmy Butler's a good scorer, even if his 3-point shooting numbers aren't good. Right. I think teams are going to guard him at the 3-point line, and he can attack closeouts. So he still contains a threat. And same thing with Embiid. I think 3-point shooting is important in terms of creating spacing in which the teams are going to try to close out at you. Mm-hmm. So even if Butler and Embiid are not shooting well statistically, or not thought of as good shooters, teams are still very clearly attacked. They're still being able to get free lanes to the rim, which is what you really want your shooting to be achieving.
Right. Yeah, they do have some gravity. They whatever. Even though I would lay off of Embiid every time. If he hit 7 to 10, tip your cap, give him the game. That's fine. I would dare him to do it until he did it. And Butler.
Quick thing, Music is Soul Talk, great name, is asking, what about Jeremy Lin in place of Lowry? Jeremy Lin is not even on the active roster tonight, and I'm really, really curious about. I mean, I'm not seeing him in the box score, and they played everyone tonight. They had Malcolm Miller and Eric Moreland out there, who, I mean, they're different positions, but they have Pat McCaw, and they have Jody Meeks, so I get it. He's a shooting specialist. I don't think I realized it's on the NBA, unless it's a different Jay Meeks. But why Moreland and Miller out there? I guess they need wing depth, or I guess forward depth instead of Lin. I don't get it.
Yeah, no,
I know he has back spasms, but I feel like he should be on the active roster.
I mean, he was definitely up on his feet, clapping really well. So I don't know if can you do that with back spasms?
I don't know. Oh, you know what? The people in the comments are all agreeing it's back spasm. So I guess it's just as simple as the back spasms are bad enough to keep him off the
active. Forgive me for not being up on my Jeremy Lin injury update report from today. I missed that one when I was studying. Okay, let's see here. Let's see. Slimy Boy in the Periscope says that Lowry's shot is even less arc in the playoffs, which is interesting. Certainly it's flat, and he has a weird sort of turns. I'm all for the turn to get your right hip and your right elbow aligned. He's got a weird turn, and like he's narrow, so his mechanics are always a little bit screwy for me in a way that I think I'm more impressed that he does shoot pretty well from the three-point line consistently over a course of a regular season, but sometimes if your mechanics are a little bit off like that, again, when the height of the pressure of the playoffs come, little things mechanically can really ultimately be a problem for you when you need them. Yeah.
Well, that's a really good observation that they made. That Lowry is a real high arc shooter most of the time. He kind of shoots like a rainbow shot.
Yeah,
so to see a shot flatten out, that makes a huge impact on him. And that's usually a flat shot is a sign of fatigue. Right. And I wouldn't be surprised if it just like straight up when he gets to the playoffs, because he's thick with 3 C's, his body is worn down at that point. His fatigue is worn down at that point.
Yes, thick. No, there's no question. And by the way, it was weird they're talking about Embiid too in his diet. I guess I haven't read up on that much. Does he really eat that poorly?
I don't know necessarily about that. He doesn't eat well. I've talked to a lot of people in his camp, and they all admit that he's overweight. I mean, I think Brett Brown has told me that, his trainers have told me that, all that shit. So like he has. I mean, I've watched him work out shirtless against Myers Leonard, who is like literally looks like Captain America, and like the difference is very apparent. But he's more powerful and he's more agile, which is saying something, as Leonard is a super athlete. But it's apparent that Joe is like a little bit like thick, isn't very cut, so there's like, I guess, higher body fat. So I think as far as like him maximizing his game, I don't think it would make too huge of a difference. It's really mostly about just like injury avoidance and fatigue, both over the course of the season in the game. So it's something that we know he needs to get better at. And Brett Brown has told me that's like something that he needs to work on. And I don't even cover the Sixers, so I'm sure the people on the Sixers beat have heard it a million times.
Yeah, and it's sad because he's a professional. He's obviously got issues with his body, and we now know science-wise that this would help. And if he really is dedicated to doing that and playing more games every season, then he should be doing that. It would take a lot of pressure off his knees. I'm sure he probably doesn't like do things like yoga, which would help him stay more flexible. And his gait isn't great. He shuffles along when he runs. So I'm worried about him anyway, knee wise. And he's already had so many issues as it is. So, they talked about him being an all-time great, right? And then Van Gundy went nuts on them for even mentioning that. But his point is pretty good. Kareem, Wilt, all the other big guys like Shaq, even Shaq, who was never like the best in shape, but he had a nice long career and played a lot of games. Those guys played a lot. Played many more games than Embiid has for his career at that time. So that's a thing.
Wait, William Howell says Embiid moves up the floor like a thought.
like a thought. But isn't that supposed to be like a lady in the distance? What's thought?
A thought is that hoe over there. So I think
he's lady in the distance.
I think he's like basically twerking his way down the floor. Which
right. I don't know. To me, it's like he shuffles. He's kind of like those weird things in that movie that no one will know because I was a kid when it came out from Henson Studios. I'll think of it in a second. I'll tell you.
YouTube commentators definitely can relate to this.
The last something, and they all hunched over, but he shuffles around, and I just think that his knees are on the way.
Wait, Bryn Forbes is calling you old, so you don't know what a thought is. I hope that's the real Bryn Forbes. And
but I did know. What did I say? I thought was. You don't lady in the distance. And what did you say it is?
That over there.
And Mr. What a Day, Dark Crystal. It's exactly what it was. Thank you. There's no way anybody on YouTube would know what I'm talking about.
How is yes.
Dark Crystal was like Henson Studio, whatever, like a stop motion animation perhaps, whatever. And these guys, and they'd all walk around and they chant. And that's what Embiid reminds me of, the way he moves. But yes. What adjustments should the Raps make to win this thing? Asks MBW Doughboy, who was a donor yesterday.
My favorite name now. What adjustments they need to make?
I wonder what MBW stands for.
I don't know, but there's a young rapper named NBA Youngboy, which I assume is some sort of playoff of that. Either way, it's close enough that I'm gonna pretend it is.
Yeah.
Daniel Yu says Landry Shamet used to buy Embiid 4 milkshakes from Chick-fil-A every road trip. I could tell. I'm gonna tell a little story right now about Chick-fil-A. So,
do we need some music or anything?
Yeah, let's give me some background music. So, All right, so Joel Embiid is part of a large group of players that goes and works out in LA at the same gym every year. And the people that run that gym are obsessed with Chick-fil-A. And so I went to watch Joe work out, and this was back in the summer before summer league, and they would go to Chick-fil-A like 4 times a day, and they'd be constantly picking up food from Chick-fil-A because the guys that are running the workouts are there like 14 hours a day or something. That's insane. And so they're always bringing the players Chick-fil-A. So I totally buy the story that, which I'm sure is probably reported by someone that we know, but that Shamit was buying milkshakes for Joel while he was on the road from Chick-fil-A, because I know that I think I had Chick-fil-A with Joe while I was out there.
Oh wow.
So yeah, Jesus is chicken. That's right.
Right. And again, you didn't call me when you were in LA, and it's time to call you out publicly for doing that.
I wasn't a co-host of the BBall Breakdown podcast at that time.
You were just trying to hide, not letting me know that you were hanging out with some of the people that I hang out with. So good for you.
Actually,
I'll make sure that you're not invited for this summer.
One, Chick-fil-A is amazing commenters, just even if it is homophobic. But two, I thought you lived in San Francisco up until like earlier this year, because you were always at the Warriors games, and I think that's where like the last time I had seen you in Cleveland during the conference finals last year, and you told me you were on your way back to San Francisco, so I assumed you lived in San Fran up until like a few months ago.
All right, I'm going to give you that GIF.
Did he buy it? Okay.
So I don't know. Anyhow, okay. I love San Francisco, but it's I would not want to live there unless I was I had millions of dollars. Okay. Michael Malvo.
Here's a good one. Forget this. This has come up a few times. Kevin Tinoco and a few other people have asked, can you take Nick Nurse's job? They want you to be the new coach of the Raptors.
Yeah, you know what? It's a race between me and him to get the Coach Nick SEO and the Google search. Although there's that football guy who has it over me, which is frustrating. But
this feeds into MBW's Doughboy's question about what adjustments do the Raptors need to make to try to.
Right. Yeah. Back. Listen, could I coach an NBA team? I think I could. I don't know if they would listen to me, because it would be the craziest, story of all time, whatever. Now, could I? Although it would be even crazier if I got hired to be let's say to be an assistant coach, right? Because that would be like basically, because I coached high school for a long time, so even a high school coach getting hired to be on an NBA staff would be, I don't think it's ever happened. I don't know any stories of that like that. So that's already like some weird thing. Not to say that I haven't talked with NBA players before and maybe consulted with them a little bit or helped them. So it's like, that's not, that wouldn't be the issue, and communication wouldn't be the issue. But, anyway, so people ask me all the time what I would do. So, but anyway, if anyone asks me if I would do it, yes, of course I would. That said, I can't move, I have a family. And if I was an assistant coach on an NBA team, even if it was in LA, the Clippers or the Lakers, I still wouldn't be home. How long would I be home, you think, out of the year? Maybe probably about 4 months of the year I'd be home, right?
I think they get 2 days a week to be home with their families, I would guess.
2 days a week during the season?
Yeah.
You think it would be okay? Yeah, that's not good. That's not a good recipe for keeping a family together.
It's not an easy job. These guys burn out. But as far as actually making adjustments,
okay.
I think the first thing is rotation. Do you tighten up this rotation down to 7? Stop playing Norm Powell. Try to maybe take out Leonard or Siakam earlier to bring them back in with the second unit more effectively.
Yeah, I mean, they blew it when they had to give him a rest in the fourth quarter to start, and that was really when it fell apart. Yeah. But there was almost nothing you can do. You got to get him those 2-3 minutes of rest. Listen, you can't bench Lowry, right?
No, it's you got to ride or die with them.
Okay, so is there an adjustment that a coach can make to get him to play better? Is there like a fast that they could put him on for 2 days? Juice cleanse?
Feed him a couple salads. How about just use the off day to work on a couple different shots and moves and just focus on 3 different plays that he has in his game and just try to run those as much as you can. Run a ton of pick and roll during the off day with Siakam. Run pick and roll with Siakam. Mm-hmm. Don't do it with Ibaka. I mean, Gasol's obviously good, but right it was Siakam or Siakam's just slamming down their throats on the roll so that Lowry can walk up to the 18-foot spot and shoot from there because that's a spot that he's good for shooting on that elbow. Really get that shot working with them. Don't worry about taking threes. I mean, 6 of his shots were inside the 3-point line, so I guess it wasn't terrible. But like, he's just got to find a couple of his rhythm shots. And I'm trying to remember what are like his shots that are like his true bag. Because when I think of his true bag, I'm thinking of like the fadeaway from the elbow 3, which is obviously not the shot.
Yeah, no, I know. Right. Coming off a pin down full speed, and I'm always amazed that goes in, but it goes in. You know, and that's a tough shot. But yeah, that would be one of them. I also think that maybe Marc Gasol. I need to chart the offensive possessions, but it kind of felt like they didn't get him on the high post very much. And to me, like the low post thing with Marc Gasol just isn't working. He's so slow when he tries to turn in the lane. He ends up like doing a crazy fadeaway from about 10 feet when he started much closer, you know, and that quick like half hook thing. He might have scored once or twice on that in today's game, but I feel like, you know, give him some more space, get him back up on the elbow, and let him kind of work from there, and let his passing be a little bit more of an effect. Watch, he only had 2 assists. I was like, watch, he had like 10 assists, but he didn't. You know, that might help a little bit as well because, you know, you're getting what you need from Kauai and Pascal, right? They got 53 points between them, and they both shot, you know, well enough. So that's certainly nothing you need to adjust. Now, yeah, and the bench is just not the bench anymore, right? And actually, this year the Raptors bench wasn't nearly as good as it had been in the last couple of years. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, because Van Vliet wasn't dominant like he was last year. That was probably a big part of it.
Yeah, and it's worth trying to find out what the heck happened to him because he was on my favorite players list and he's not anymore. How about this? Mr. Whataday does ask, what small guards have had success deep in the playoffs? I think probably like ever. And I mean, listen, if you want to count, well, I think the Bulls had. I mean, how far back are we going to go? But what do you think, Derek Fisher?
If we're going well, I mean, he wasn't too instrumental to the success. He's a spot up shooter too. But like, I mean, Iverson carried a team on his back to the finals, so he was pretty good. Answer. Okay. Kyle, what's his name? Kyrie Irving is 6'1", so I don't know if you'll call him a little guard, but he's obviously performed better as the playoffs have gone on most years. Tony Parker is a 6-footer, and he's obviously one of the great playoff players.
There you go.
How tall is Dame? Dame's like 6'3", right? So
no. Dame is 6'1" in shoes.
Really? Okay, I mean, well that's a good one.
See. You know what? I remember
6'3", so I guess
I was actually, you know what? He might be sort of sneaky taller than he was. I remember like standing with him, but that was way back when he was a rookie. So now I'm like forgetting exactly. But he wasn't, you know, he might be 6'2".
Yeah, and there's people in the comments saying Kyrie is 6'3" or 6'2". I know Kyrie, I cover him all the time. I'm 6 feet tall. He's like an inch taller than me. So yeah, that's he's really about 6'1" or so. And of someone saying Tony Parker is 6'2", I'm taller than Tony Parker and I'm 6 feet. So
are you really? I don't remember.
I'm 5'11" and 3/4.
And that's taller than Tony Parker?
I'm pretty sure I was taller than Tony Parker last time I saw him. But you know, it could have been the angle or he might have been leaning a little. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure he was shorter than me. And then people here are saying Isaiah Thomas. I mean, Isaiah Thomas was that's fair because Isaiah Thomas was incredible when he was healthy. In that 3-round run that they had, and then when he really struggled against Cleveland, and the Cleveland's game plan that they had ran against him the year before that, fuck you, Rod's NBA. What was I gonna say? The Isaiah Thomas was amazing in those first 2 rounds, was dropping the same amount of points, and then in that 3rd round against Cleveland, he was hurt that entire time, so it was really hard to tell whether it was the injury just completely shut him down at that point, or if the defensive scheme was really working well the way it had the year before that when Cleveland had swept them in the 1st round with David Blatt, and Isaiah Thomas had been completely taken out of his game.
Right. Well, listen, in the thing, we have some comments here that are highlighted in orange, and I think I need to read those because they did something special to get that to happen. I don't know what. So let's just run down all of them as quickly as we can. So MBW Doughboy says, I remember your interview with Steve Kerr, and he said he watches your stuff. Who is the weirdest person in the NBA that watches your stuff? Geez, that's an interesting question. Who's the weirdest person? If Lance Stevenson ever watched my stuff, that would be the weirdest person. I think the weirdest thing I'd ever imagined. But I don't know. I don't know if I have a great answer for that, just because it's not always clear exactly who's watching. But they're out there, and people seem to know me when I walk around. Let's see. Michael Pham YouTube asks, "Do you think putting Ibaka in the starting five instead of Green would make a difference to the Raps winning Game 4? By the way, they have to treat Game 4 like it's a knockout game. This is their last game of the season.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So first of all, Ibaka was terrible, but you go Ibaka at the 2. So now that's weird, because then who does Ibaka guard? I don't think that works, does it? It may work. I don't know. What do you think?
You said Ibaka at the 2? Do you mean Kauai at the 2?
Well, he wants to start Ibaka instead of Green, and that's Danny Green, right?
So you would shift Kauai to the 2, Siakam to the 3. So basically, that would be. So you're saying Lowry would guard. Who the hell would he guard? Would you put him on Butler?
Redick. He'd have
you
to guard
would
Redick.
have him chase Redick.
Yeah.
And then Kauai would be on Butler.
And then and then you put that works. Putting Ibaka on Harris.
And then Siakam on Simmons, and then Gasol on Embiid. Yeah, that does work. I can see that.
Siakam on Simmons. Or you can do Siakam on Butler and then Kauai on Simmons, but whatever. Okay. That's interesting.
I'd much rather have Kauai on Butler.
I salute you.
Yeah, that's okay. Let's try it.
All right, let's get that going on. Try that. Hey, listen, a couple tweets, man, can influence everything. Listen, I know they didn't watch my video, but I can tell you right now, when they didn't match up the same way to start the game, and by the way, it was weird because it worked so well for them in the first half of the game of tonight's game. I don't understand why they would have changed anything, and they went back to that Game 2 lineup. That was a little bit weird to me. I remember when I was coaching as an assistant coach and my mentor, and like we were doing well, and I'd be like, well, hey, what about this? He goes, no, don't change anything. Like, it was working so well, and all you want to do is tinker the whole time. ETS Productions, a.k.a. E-Stew, asks, should Kauai be more aggressive with the ball, a.k.a. hog the ball? I don't think he can be any more aggressive than he possibly can be that he is now, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's really going for a shot. He's took 22 shots. So he's been taking like 30 shots a game. There's not a ton more that he could do at this point.
Right. So, all right, I agree. JoJo, does Ben's defense make up for his offensive deficiencies? It's hard because you got to have the helps, but you got to have, because remember, defense is always weighted a little bit less than offense, right? Like, it's in the hierarchical way we evaluate in theory. Someone once made a pretty good, compelling argument for that. So it has to be way above the offense to really balance it out. But yeah, I think maybe, I don't know. Like, did he make a lot of great plays tonight on defense? I'm trying to even picture that.
I thought there was one play I noticed he was good. There's a couple where it seemed like he was a little bit passive on defense. I think overall he's a pretty good net positive on defense. He's not as good as he was last year. Last year he was ball hawking like crazy. Mm-hmm. He was smothering people against the sideline when they had the ball. It was like a one-man trap basically. So his presence isn't felt quite as much this year.
Okay. Someone asked, by the way, how tall Curry is, and I'm going to give him 6'3". He's like a kind of a lanky, longer,
he's
6'3". Let's see. Are there any more? Here's another orange one. Goddamn Zed again asks, everyone else needs to score. Raptors ISOs will not win us Game 4. Okay, so he's obviously a Raptors fan. Yeah, I don't like the ISO look for them. I feel like they're at their best when they're attacking on the catch, breaking down the defense, collapsing them, kicking out for open shots, right? Like that's what they're good at. It's not like Houston. And certainly not when you have guys like, Powell or whatever, or Danny Green. I mean, listen, Danny Green, I joke on Twitter, he should have a one dribble rule. And someone's like, I don't understand what that means. I'm like, because anytime he dribbles more than once, it's just bad. And he had a drive on 2 dribbles that it was just embarrassing. He shouldn't be doing that. And at some point, they gave him the green light, and I called it in one of my videos where if Redick's guarding you, you should just take him. And honestly, it doesn't work. That's not his thing, and Redick is good enough to stop that. And it's really kind of scary. They tried to even post him up on Redick. And I'm like, what are you doing? When's the last time Danny Green posted up? Why are you going to torpedo your offense, to try and attack some weird mismatch? Which happened, by the way, in my video I showed today on the Nuggets game and the, Trailblazers. Part of the reason why Dame didn't go off, it certainly was passive in the first quarter, was because they were trying to attack these perceived mismatches with like Aminu or like Harkless. And so now you got Dame standing around, getting out of rhythm, whatever, waiting for that. And those didn't come out that well. Harkless had one good one. But other than that, it's not like what they do. And so you kind of overthink it. Next thing you know, your star is struggling.
Yeah. And just to go back to the whole ISO thing, the ISO scheme works for LeBron and Harden and maybe Giannis too. And yeah, Durant, just because he can score from anywhere. But the point is, to be a really effective ISO system, you have to be able to, one, really have pull and gravity with your shooters to actually really give space to the guy to work it. And two, the guy has to be able to really nail that pass when they get to the free throw line if the team is loading up on them. And Kauai is a good passer, but he's never really been a playmaker in his career. There's just never really been a time where he's clearly exhibited throughout a game that he can really take over dishing the ball out. So it doesn't fit his play profile. And maybe he can do it, and maybe if they go to it next game, it'll work, but they just don't have the stretching right now to make it really work. I don't think Philly's going to continue to load the paint on them and still keep one guy on the weak side to take care of it. So I don't think Kauai can make it happen.
You know, I would like to think he could do it, but you're right. He makes a simple pass when they come over and he gets in whatever. He's not the kind of guy who has tremendous vision. And that's okay. It works for what they have generally. But yeah, they're going to have to really come up with some interesting stuff. And I'm really intrigued by the Ibaka thing. I mean, if Ibaka was playing at all any better than he has been, then it would be interesting to try. I don't see how Nick Nurse would look at that and be like, oh, I got to get him more minutes. But I certainly, taking less minutes from Danny Green, I wouldn't argue with either. Dennis Dave asks, can you make a video on shooting drills that help during actual in-game situations? It happens to, funnily enough, I had that exact video that I filmed, and I got to finish editing it. And I've launched a big sort of membership online, and that's where a lot of my on-court demo stuff is going to be for the coaches. So stay tuned for that, and you'll be able to get access to that behind, as a subscriber. So that's going to be a big thing, and people are really enjoying what we're doing already for that. So if you see those ads in the beginning or end of my videos, check it out. It's really it's a cool thing. What do you say, Jared? I think we're getting close to wrapping this up. It's been a nice, really great conversation. Again, YouTube wins the day.
YouTube's been great. They keep debating. Somebody, for some reason, thinks Kyrie is the best player in the Eastern Conference. I'm curious, I think, how many players in the Eastern Conference do you think are better than Kyrie?
Well, what's the list?
Giannis, Kauai, Fred VanVleet, Joel Embiid. And then I think probably Kyrie there, but
I would put Giannis over Kyrie.
Yes.
I would put Kauai over Kyrie. I would put Embiid over Kyrie.
Eduardo Fishtaler says there's 69 players better than Kyrie. Someone, Jason Tatum, but you just know how to spell his name. Van Fleet, Lamau, that's fucking right. Boban is definitely better than Kyrie.
Sure. TJ McConnell. Okay.
Actually, Boban played 3 minutes tonight. We barely even saw Boban. They finally kind of, I mean, that's because he committed to Greg Monroe. Monroe was kind of a disaster. Him trying to dunk it wide open and missing.
Wait. He didn't even try and dunk it though, right? He just tried to lay it up and miss it.
It was a layup. Yeah. He basically dunked it into the rim. It was
that was embarrassing. But you know what? Give him credit. He was good last game. And he had 4 points, but I'm thinking at least one of those buckets was like at the end in garbage time because I didn't see it. But Monroe gave him a really big lift in game whatever that was, where he was playing a lot better than Embiid. Let's see. Thomas Mazzocco asks, do you think that VanVleet needs to be benched for the rest of the series because he's not bringing much on offense and he can't play D because he's way too small? No, you got to run with him. You got to wait and see because maybe he will find it at some point. But how many minutes did he play? Let's see,
21. He was their main bench guy.
21. So
maybe these guys played a few less minutes than they would have because there was just some garbage time at the end. Right. But like Toronto's guys should be playing 40 minutes. There should be multiple guys here playing 40 plus minutes.
Right. And Kauai was at 36. Siakam was 33. And he wasn't even foul trouble, really. Marc Gasol, 29. That's fine with him. Danny Green was 30. By the way, like Danny Green got 34 minutes. He probably should have gotten 30. And then Kyle Lowry, 38. The problem is, there's nothing that you can't play anybody else besides Kyle Lowry, even though I want him off the floor. They got to dance with the date they brought to the prom. No. Anyhow, well, let's see. We're not going to do one tomorrow, I don't think, right? Actually, tomorrow's Friday. I got to go. Guess what? I'm going. Oh, I can't say because I wonder if my friend is watching. Well, never mind. Ooh.
Don't say.
I could say that I'm going to a party. If I don't say what it is, wait. I'm going to go to a party and I get to dress like it's a yacht rock party. Very excited. In fact, I was trying to grow my mustache, but I'm gonna have to do spirit gum because I don't have enough time.
There you go. I'll be at the Yacht Rock party known as Celtics Bucks Game 3. We got a few people here that want to get our prediction. How do you see the rest of the series shaping up?
Okay, great question. Let's quickly do that before we wrap up here. All right, so what's in the first series? We got Celtics versus the Bucks.
Yeah, which you keep forgetting the Bucks. They're very forgettable to you. That makes me feel like you think the Celtics are gonna come back.
Where are we? 1-1 right now, right?
Yeah, they're 1-1.
Yeah.
Basically just like destroyed each other in the first.
Yeah, and I'm a prisoner of the moment, so I'm going to go with the Celtics win that. And I feel like, okay, what's the next series we're going to talk about? Okay, Warriors are going to beat the Rockets, maybe in 5. We talked about that last night. What's the other one?
Blazers and Nuggets.
Man, I don't know why. I will admit I kind of find myself cheering for the Blazers a little bit. Like I kind of just sort of want to see them win, and they like overcame so much, and the refereeing was so bad. And I went through it in the video. Watch it after we're done here. I released it right before the game, late. So I think I want the Blazers to win. CJ McCollum, friend of the breakdown. Let's root for him a little bit. So I think they're going to win. And then we have this series, which I think I've already sort of buried the Raptors in a 6-game.
But I thought you were pro Raptors, according to the YouTube commenters. I'm shocked. I'm
flipping. Listen. What have you done for me lately?
That's true. I think this could turn around, but Philly is killing them right now. It's hard to see. Everybody on Philly seems to be clicking, and we know Philly is just like Boston. It's Toronto and Milwaukee were two teams that are really well designed, had great chemistry that really carried them through the season, while Philly and Boston had the most talent, but were a mess. And we're seeing that it's really hard for them to wrangle it all together for one full series. And the Celtics are really showing that, because the Celtics look like they could take down the Warriors in game 1, and then they look like they don't even deserve to be in the playoffs still in game 2. Right. So yeah, I mean, I like Philly to continue this. I mean, as long as Embiid is healthy, I think Philly is probably going to be the favorite again. And last night, I said Toronto was going to make the NBA Finals. So I still think Toronto is the best team in the East when they're playing well, but they're just not playing. The last 2 games have not been good. And I mean, Kyle Lowry's got to turn this around hard. He's got to have that breakout game that resets the narrative for him. And maybe he will. He seems to do that pretty often. And then I think the Celtics are probably gonna probably win game 3 and then drop game 4. I still think the Bucks are probably gonna win that series in 7.
Okay. All right. We got a couple quick orange things to mention real quick on YouTube. Xerxes NG. And I know you're supposed to pronounce NG a certain way. I'm forgetting how you do it, but Nang.
I think usually.
Something like that. He wanted to ask you if I think the Raps have a chance. No. And if Kauai leave? Yes. And then Jamie Harknett, do the Raptors have a chance to win the series? I guess we're sort of writing them off. No, sorry, Raptors. Doughboy is Philly going to the finals. I'm calling it now. Trust the tanking. I mean the process. Okay, interesting. And that covers all the orange ones, which I don't know what that means, but that's why
it means that they mention something. It means that they mention your name.
That's it. That's all he had to do.
Yeah.
Oh, well, then everybody should be doing that. Okay. Anyway, and then John 671. You can't wait until the end to ask me my thoughts on Tom Izzo's coaching. I will have a whole.
No, this is an NBA show. Get out of here.
But I did a whole 27-minute video on that. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch it because it's awesome. And if you will know exactly how I feel about his coaching after you watch that. So, Jared, awesome stuff. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back again next week. How about for another round of live shows? What do you say?
Hell, just do one Saturday night. Let's just keep doing these live shows when I don't have to do a Celtics game.
I think I got something to do on Saturday too.
Yeah, I don't live my life anymore.
Yeah,
it's all about live streaming for me.
Oh, I know. I'm going out on Saturday night too, which is usually my date. I go out anyway, the date night. But it's rare in the playoffs that I do that. So I gotta have a break. I gotta have some fun too. You know, guys' night out or whatever. Or actually that's the Saturday's date night. But Friday is going to be the awesome yacht rock party. Cannot wait for that. So anyway.
Can I get a plug in real quick?
Get a plug in real quick.
One, just follow me everywhere. Jared Weiss NBA, YouTube, Cash App, Pornhub, wherever. Also, I have a news story on the Athletic NBA page it is not about basketball. It's about hip hop. It's about rapper cousin Stiz, who's one of the biggest rappers ever to come out of Boston, who's now becoming a big sensation in LA. He's become the new face of the Celtics playoff campaign. I ended up writing kind of a long form feature about what that means I did say Pornhub, but I wrote like a long feature about what this means for a city that's really grappled with having minorities representing the city, because there's such like this kind of white bread image of the city, and how the city is really evolving to be more representative. And it's just a lot of other, social stuff like that, and also interesting stuff if you think branding and marketing and advertising is cool, and if you just think basketball is cool, go give it a read. Please subscribe it, retweet it to your friends, and I need the subscribes to make me look good to my superiors so that I can get promoted to work full time. So go do it.
Yes, don't we all? We all need those subscribers to come on to The Athletic. So head over there, watch my videos too, and read Jared's stuff and everybody else's stuff. And again, thank you all for being here.
Oh, awesome stuff. I look like a white version of Jamal Murray. I like that. You haven't shown your feet yet. Somebody paid for you to show your feet.
My bare feet? Is that what the deal?
Yeah, that's why you have to follow me on Pornhub too.
All right. Oh, okay. And that's a thing, right? People like bare feet. I forgot.
We do foot fetishes here on the B-Ball Breakdown.
You want me to do MSMR or whatever? What's it called again? What's that?
ASMR, I think.
ASMR. I can do that too if you want.
I don't think it's like a...
You really want to see my feet, huh? Actually, my feet are
pretty good looking. I think this is really weird, but someone paid $2 and they got to get with...
My feet are pretty good looking, I think. Here. The bottom of them, the top. What do you want to see? My toes?
All right, I think that's enough. All right, let's kill the stream before everybody.
All right, good. Yeah. And then I can do some ASMR for you if you like to, because that's really fun. Anyway, all right, guys, we had a great time. We'll be back here. Don't worry, we're gonna be right back. So you'll know. The only question is when. Probably next week. We'll figure out a game. It's always great when we only have one game in a night, and it's a little bit earlier. We can do this, and everyone's around. So, Jared, awesome stuff. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody else.
Shout out to the amazing YouTube commenters, and shout out to Coach Nick, everybody, for doing some ridiculous shit for your money.
Yeah, all right. That's what the things I'll do for you guys. So anyway, thanks so much. And don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel. We're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Jared?
I'm out of here after that foot show.